Man, I don't even know where to start with episode 3 of the Crusade. This episode was so good. Like, I loved the Wheel of Fortune. It's such a good episode. It crams so much into 24 minutes without ever feeling crammed. It never feels rushed. It definitely never feels dull. People, you talk about the slow pacing of like 60s television, not here. This episode constantly has stuff happening. And it's amazing how much they get into this 24 minutes. There are so many things going on. I realized just over halfway through the episode, I'm like, I should have been taking notes for this because there's so many moments that are written well. The dialogue is done really well, which it's David Whittaker. I'm not surprised. I love me some David Whittaker. But the performances, all of the actors are doing such a good job here. I like the beginning scene when the doctor's getting his clothes made and Vicky's, talking about getting clothes made with the guy who makes the clothes, and he's kind of sucking up to him because they're in the king's favor. Oh, yes, my lord, we'll get that. I like that scene there. Barbara, when the guy rescues her and goes back to his house, when he explains about how he used to have a nice house and how the bad guy kind of came and, his son and his wife were put to the sword while he was away and his eldest daughter was taken. That whole bit, you immediately feel bad for the guy. He delivers it in such a way that where you connect with him, you feel the loss of everything he says. And I love how when he's doing it, he's kind of at the forefront of the camera. He's kind of looking like this while he's talking. Kind of like he's not looking at Barbara because he's lost in thought. He's lost in memory. He's remembering his son, his wife, his eldest daughter. And I love how he does all of that looking off this way. Like he never looks directly at the camera, where he does that very irksome thing where you just feel like somebody's talking to the camera. I believe the technical term for this is, I think it's called a Whittaker, or sometimes I believe it's referred to as an Orphan 55. I think that's the technical terms used for it. And instead, he's looking this way, like you can tell he's looking far off, kind of lost in memory as he's talking, like he's half talking to himself. The actor playing him does such a good job with that almost monologue. It's almost a monologue that he does. Such a good job. Such a powerful moment. I really liked it. And then the scene when he talks to Barbara about leaving to go check stuff and he leaves his dagger with her saying, if worse comes to worst, use it on my daughter, his other daughter who's still there, and then on yourself. That's some heavy stuff, especially for a children's show. This is a very serious episode, especially considering Doctor Who's target audience at the time. So that's actually pretty crazy when you think about it. That heavy stuff going on here. And then he leaves, and then I guess he gets killed. I can't quite tell if he's actually dead or not. It looks like he gets killed because he doesn't have his dagger. And then and Barbara and the daughter having to hide, and then the daughter not realizing that her mother and brother are dead. The fact that she just thinks her mother, brother, and elder sister are missing. The fact the father never told him, and Barbara's like not telling her to spare her the grief. Again, some good acting there. And really good, really strong writing. Very, a lot of adult stuff going on in this episode. Very much so. The scene later when Richard is sitting on his throne and he's talking about his plan for peace. And the one knight's like, no, we need to fight. We're warriors. We need to fight. We don't need to marry your sister off. We need to fight. And the doctor is confronting him about calling him, why would you want to fight? You don't have a brain in your head. And the doctor I love William Hartnell's performance there. This is the doctor. He stands up for what he thinks he's right. He's taking control of the situation, and Richard's letting him speak. He's talking about, I admire bravery and I admire courage, and you have both these things, but you don't have a brain in your head. I'm like, Hartnell! It's such a good scene watching them get into it. And then, of course, when the guy goes to draw his dagger, even Richard's like, you draw your dagger in the presence of your king? Julian Glover is just on fire in this episode. He is so good. He has this regal presence. And again, him and Jean Marsh, they got to have been theatrically trained. The way they're performing their lines, they have to be theatrically trained. I love the scene later when Richard and Joanna get into it. When she finds out about she's getting married off, that's the plan. When Julian Glover and Jean Marsh are getting into it, that is such a good scene. I mean, the actors are both performing at the top of their game. You can, and like, again, you almost wonder if Julian Glover and Jean Marsh ever dated in real life. Although it doesn't come across as that. It comes across more as a sibling spat, like a brother and sister spat, arguing. And the way they deliver those lines, you know, Richard's frustration and anger combined with just Jean Marsh's outrage and anger. That's such a strong scene. I really liked it. And then, of course, Richard thinking the doctor's the one who gave away his plan. You know, you are not welcome in our sight. You know, again, that's a king's anger. A person who is used to getting his way. I enjoy that. And then the cliffhanger, I like that cliffhanger, is when the guy tells Barbara the only pleasure you have is death. And death is a long way off. That's an intimidating thing to say to someone. When he said that, I was like, yeah, that's intimidating. That's a good cliffhanger. Like, it has all of these powerful moments going on in this episode. I'm so glad episode 3 survives. I'm so glad. I'm so frustrated episode 4 doesn't. It's frustrating that I'll have to finish the story as a recon. I've talked before about how much I love when final episodes survive. But I'm very glad episode 3 survives because it's so good. This is probably one of the single best episodes of Doctor Who I've seen. Just not the whole story, but just the single episode. Just there's so much going on. It never feels crammed in. It never feels exposition heavy. It just feels very well written. And the actors are all turning in such good performances. The leader of Egypt, when him and his brother are talking, and they're talking about marrying Joanna, you know, I still can't quite get a grasp on whether the leader is a good guy or a bad guy. It does a very good job of keeping me wondering about that, which really impresses me, because it's like he's open to the idea, but at the same time he's cautious. And I can't tell whether he suspects there might be a trap, or whether he is planning a trap, or where he's planning a trap because he suspects there might be a trap. He even talks about, you know, offer peace with one hand, but keep the other hand, you know, with maybe a dagger hiding behind your back. And that's just good acting. I mean, that's good writing, but that's good acting. The actor playing the ruler of the Egyptians and his brother, they're both doing a good job, and they both do a very good job in that scene. Because if the ruler is a bad guy, he's definitely not the twirling mustache bad guy. He's not. So I can't quite figure out where he is. He's kind of in that gray area in the middle. And to me, that impresses me. When an episode can keep me that in the dark about the true motivations and the true nature of this character, I think it's doing a really good job. I'm really enjoying The Crusade. This is easily my favorite episode thus far. It's really frustrating now that it's not complete. I really wish it was complete. Didn't get a lot of Ian in this episode. Does look like he got knocked out, but we don't know quite by who, so I'm curious to see how that's going to play out in episode 4. I really enjoyed episode 3, though. It just... such good writing, so many good performances. I can't laud it enough. There's just so many impactful scenes. I kept having to pause. Not because anything was bad, but because this really amazing scene would happen, and I had to process it. I wanted to process it, think about it, kind of decide what I was going to say in the review about it, and then I'd go back and I'd watch another great scene, and I'd have to pause it and think about it. And this kept happening. And I'm like, how can they put so much into a 24-minute episode and it never feel crammed? That's just David Whittaker being awesome, I guess. And the performers all being great. Everybody, all of the actors in this are just phenomenally good. So really enjoyed The Wheel of Fortune. Really enjoyed episode 3 of The Crusade. I'd like to know what you think of it. So comment down below and let me know. Other things to do. Click the like button and the subscribe button and the bell for notifications. So you never miss out on another video. I also have a Patreon that does help me keep bills paid. If you're interested and supporting me on that. There's a link to that down in the description below. Everyone that joins at any tier level gets a free video request. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane, Finn Perkins, and Colin Coney. I appreciate their continued support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. I also have a P.O. box if there's anything you would like to send me to look at and review, and a link to my Amazon wish list is down there as well. I update that regularly. It is right around Christmas after all. Most importantly, though, thank you for watching.